Hello and welcome to The Bar. This week, I want to share the judgments of a personal injury case resulting from a road accident. The victim is unmarried and has a child with no prospects, according to the courts, of fathering any child again. The accident caused the victim to be paralyzed. Indeed, the medical report put his loss of genital functions as 100%, loss of mobility as 50%, and psychological injury as 60%. The events giving rise to this case started on the 28th of April 2009. The case was fought in the High Court in Kumasi, was reviewed and ruled upon on appeal by the Court of Appeal, and for a final and conclusive resolution, the case ended up in the Supreme Court and was decided finally in January 2020. The court was faced with the issue of the appropriate level of compensation to adequately compensate the plaintiff in his personal injury claim. There was also the issue of whether or not the courts could award a higher amount than what was claimed by the plaintiff. So, what's his story really? Well, a timber merchant hired a truck to cut his timber logs from Diaso near Dunko to Mim in the Denbuno Ahafo region. On reaching a place called Kwabinakuma, the vehicle was involved in an accident. The plaintiff sustained serious injuries and was first sent to Gorso Government Hospital and later transferred to the Komfo Teaching Hospital in Kumasi, where he received intensive care for about 5 months before being discharged to continue his treatment as an outpatient. In 2012, he sued the owner of the truck for the sum of 400,000 Ghana cedis, special and general damages for the negligence of the driver, resulting in the injury suffered in the accident. It turned out the vehicle was not insured, did not have a roadworthiness certificate, and the driver was also not licensed by law to drive the vehicle at the material time. So what did the High Court say? Well, in the judgment delivered on the 30th of October 2015, the court found that first, the accident was not caused by negligent driving because the evidence of the police was that the vehicle developed a fault and fell down. However, by permitting a vehicle to ply the road without valid documentation, that is roadworthiness certificates and insurance, as well as authorizing an unlicensed driver to drive the truck, the court held that the defendant should be held vicariously liable for the plaintiff's claim. So let's explain what vicarious liability is. That is where a person or entity is held for damages or harm caused by someone else. So now that we understand that, let's move on. And I'll give you an example. When an employer is held liable for the action of one of his employees. So back to our case. The judge then awarded the plaintiff general and special damages in the sum of 20,000 Ghana cedis. Remember, the victim was looking for 400,000. He got 20,000. Obviously, dissatisfied with the decision, he appealed to the Court of Appeal. And in May 2018, the Court of Appeal reversed the award on the assessment of damages made by the High Court and awarded the plaintiff damages, those that they could quantify and those that they couldn't, totaling 150,000 Ghana cedis. Remember, he was asking for 400,000. The first court gave him 20,000, and then this court gave him 150. You would think that he would go to court again and ask for a higher figure, but no. As the person on the other side, the defendant, he appealed to the highest court, the Supreme Court, requesting that they reverse the decision of the Court of Appeal and restore the award made by the High Court. Bear in mind, the Supreme Court is the last hope of the citizens. Let me tell you the judges who sat on this case. The Chief Justice, Kwesi Eneniyebua, presided. There was also Bafo Boni, Justice Apau, poor man, and this man who ended up delivering the judgment, Justice Amegache. I'll share his words with you as he delivered this judgment. The time has come, and this is a quote, the time has come to be forward-looking and award realistic and comparable compensation to comparable injuries to adequately compensate for the long-term deformity, mental torture, and unimaginable losses suffered. This, we believe, will give affected persons hope that the states, for that matter, the justice delivery system, will not abandon them in their times of need. It will also serve as a deterrent to vehicle owners, drivers, professionals, and workers into whose care precious lives of people are trusted. In arriving at a decision, the court considered the following factors, and I want to run you through the lists. The fact that it is not in doubt that as a result of the accident, the victim became paralyzed and his condition is likely to remain for the rest of his life. He went on the track as a whole man, remember, human being, and after the accident came out on a stretcher and has been so ever since. The plaintiff has gone through considerable pain and suffering, according to the court, that he cannot work as a timber merchant again and has no prospect of getting any paid job from any employer. It is not out of place to describe plaintiff as a total wreck and a citizen of this country with reduced capacity to enjoy the pleasures of life again. And these are words from the judgment. Again, they said he is incapable of doing anything by himself, cannot get an erection again, and is totally incontinent for the rest of his life. The victim's condition is the worst that can happen to any human being, according to the Supreme Court. It's also interesting to note that the court factored in inflation, the purchasing power of money, and the economic factors of the day. The court also indicated that in June 2012, when the action was instituted claiming 400,000 Ghana cedis, the exchange rate of the United States dollars to the Ghana cedis was $1 to 1 cedi 89 pesos. And in January this year, when they finally decided the case, the US dollar was 5 cedis 60 pesos. The value of the initial claim made by the plaintiff had therefore diminished over the 8 years that the case had lingered on in the courts. So after considering all these factors, the court awarded the following damages. And I'm going to show you in a form that you can appreciate. So they broke it down and they gave pre-trial loss of earnings, 5,000 Ghana cedis. They also gave special damages for medical expenses at 10,000 Ghana cedis. Future loss of earnings for 21 years at 800 cedis per month comes up to 201,600. Nursing attendance for 2 nurses at 500 Ghana cedis per month for 21 years, totaling 126,000. General damages for pain, suffering, mental agony, loss of amenities, loss of expectation of life, physical disabilities, and loss of sexual pleasures, totaling 280,000 Ghana cedis. And everything sums up to 622,600. So in the end, the court varied the award by the Court of Appeal from 150,000 Ghana cedis to over 600,000 Ghana cedis. This is something that rarely happens. Often, well, they would either give what you're asking, keep it low, but sometimes in instances like this, as you've seen, with all the justifications, they raise the figure. So here's how I want to conclude on the bar. It is a fact that the productive lives are being rendered disabled due to serious injuries as a result of road crashes. According to the police MTTD, 94% of road crashes are caused through human error. Often, the criminal process leaves victims disappointed with the paltry fines imposed on corporate as punishment. Take, for instance, the case of the woman in her late 20s who was left paralyzed by an unlicensed driver driving a vehicle not roadworthy. He was only fined less than 1,000 Ghana cedis, yet his victim continues to live with a disability. In the words of Justice Omagache, in this case that I have just taken you through, he said, quote, "It could have been avoided, but for the recklessness on our roads, coupled with impunity, indiscipline, and lack of value for human life by drivers who ply the roads in this jurisdiction," unquote. So for all those in similar situations, you can seek remedies from the court. Hopefully, this brings you hope. Stay with us.